Hello, and welcome to another in our series of CMMI Tech Talks looking at specific practice areas within the CMMI model. In this talk, we're going to review the estimating EST practice area. We will discuss the intent of this practice area and look at what value it can provide to an organization, as well as looking at the individual practices to see how they can be used to help plan and build commitments to solutions that will meet our customers' needs. Estimating is one of three practice areas within the planning and managing work capability area, which is in the managing category. Estimating is a core practice area that can be used to support the management and planning of any CMMI practice area, but is particularly relevant when used in the context of planning and managing work in combination with the two other practice areas in the associated capability area: planning, otherwise known as plan, and monitoring and control, MC. The CMMI model defines a core practice area as a collection of practice areas considered foundational. Core practice areas, PAs, enable organizational improvement and provide the building blocks for achieving maturity levels for specified domains. In simple terms, this is something any organization in any industry or domain could reference for the best practices in estimating for any type of work. We shall start our tour by looking at the key mandatory model components, the high-level intent and value statements. Intent estimates the size, effort, duration, and cost of the work and resources needed to develop, acquire, or deliver the solution. Value provides a basis for making commitments, planning, and reducing uncertainty, which allows for early corrective actions and increases the likelihood of meeting objectives. Firstly, it is worth highlighting that the intent statement reflects the generalized nature of this practice area. Estimating has a role to play regardless of whether you are focused on developing, acquiring, or delivering a solution to your customers. The CMMI model defines a solution as a product, product component, service, service system component, process, or tool that is developed, delivered, acquired, or operated to fulfill a defined need. A solution may include relevant data, people, safety, or security components or subcomponents. Another key part of the intent statement is that the estimating practices are not purely focused on attempting to determine cost and duration alone, which are often the headline figures on which many plans are based, but also look at the contributing factors which drive cost and duration, such as size and complexity. The value statement points to the role of estimating in reducing uncertainty in work activities by providing some quantitative basis around which to plan the activities of a project or an organization. All endeavors have a degree of uncertainty associated with them. The more uncertainty, the higher the risk we face when trying to meet our objectives. Estimating gives us one tool to help us reduce or mitigate uncertainty by considering all the factors that may influence the work to be performed. The practices of estimating go up to practice group level 3 and reflect the expected evolutionary progression towards increasing capability. The level 1 practice simply expects us to undertake some form of estimating regarding the work to be performed. At level 2, we take a more considered approach to our estimating practices by starting to break the work down into manageable and estimatable chunks, and then looking at the size of these more granular pieces of work, along with other factors that may influence the amount of work needed to implement them, and then using this information to derive estimates for effort, cost, and duration. At level 3, we introduce more organizational concepts to our estimating practices by establishing recorded estimating approaches and using historical data from our centralized measurement repository to inform our estimating practices. Looking now at the individual practices, estimating 1.1 calls for us to simply estimate at a high level how much work is needed to perform the work to be done. Undertaking a task with no idea of how much effort is likely to be involved or how much cost we are likely to incur is not a strategy that is generally going to be successful. Nor is this a situation that we as human beings generally find ourselves comfortable with. We like to set high-level estimates, even for tasks that we have little experience with, because that enables us to broadly plan our activity. For example, if I have a list of household chores that need to be done on my day off, I may look at the list and decide that the first 3 on the list are likely to keep me busy for this morning. In doing this, I have effectively made a very basic estimate for the duration and effort needed to accomplish those 3 tasks. Of course, depending on the tasks in question, my estimates may be wildly wrong. Even tasks we think are well understood are likely to take us longer or occasionally shorter than we originally anticipate. However, even such a high-level estimate based on little to no empirical data can be useful. If I have set myself 3 tasks to perform in one morning and find myself halfway through the morning and still on my first task, this may help me to adjust my expectations as to whether I will complete my planned work. So for level 1, an estimate, any estimate, is a potentially useful starting point. However, when we move up to the level 2 practices, we will start to invest more effort in our estimates to hopefully make them more reliable and representative of the work to be performed. Remember, the value statement of the estimating practice area is that it helps us to reduce uncertainty, and the practices at level 2 represent different aspects of strategies which can help us better understand the nature of the work to be performed, and in so doing, improve our understanding of the work and thereby reduce uncertainty associated with it. Estimating 2.1 looks for us to define the scope of the work to be performed. There are 2 aspects of scope to consider here. Firstly, at a very fundamental level, we need to understand the boundary of what is being requested. Exactly what is part of the work to be performed, and what lies outside of it. If we don't understand the boundary of a task, we cannot hope to reliably estimate it. There is a clear relationship here to the practices of the requirements, development, and management practice area, which are also concerned with defining the limits of the work to be performed. But here we are concerned with bounding the work so we can understand how big it is. The second aspect of scope, and arguably the most important one from the perspective of the estimating practice area, is to break the work down into smaller, more manageable pieces of work. The smaller and better defined a task is, the more reliable the estimate for that task is likely to be. Consider the task of painting the internal walls of a large house. With no prior knowledge or experience of decorating, a single high-level estimate for the whole job is likely to be prone to a high degree of error. However, if we were to estimate each room individually and add these smaller estimates up, there's an increased likelihood that our overall estimate will be significantly improved. By turning the well-bounded large task into a set of smaller ones and basing our estimate on the sum of the smaller estimates, we should reduce the overall uncertainty associated with this task. Estimating 2.2 then looks at how we should estimate each of the smaller work elements. The practice directs us to focus on the size of the task. Size can mean different things in the context of different types of work or even different types of organizations. When building houses or offices, we may think about size in terms of number of rooms, number of floors, floor space, or many other key drivers. Developing software might be more about the number of components, function points, even lines of code in certain cases. Size may be an absolute measurement, which could be measured, or if using a more agile approach, it could be a relative assessment such as this module is twice as big as that one. Size may also be influenced by other factors that we might want to consider in our estimates, such as complexity. A simple electric kettle may well be a very similar physical size to a home coffee making machine, yet the latter is likely to be substantially more complex, and so would take proportionally more effort to build. Once we have established the approximate size of the various work items we have identified, we can then use this information as the basis to develop actual estimates of effort, duration, and cost. These are the numbers which are important when bidding for and planning the work, but without first establishing size as the basis for them, effort and cost estimates are extremely unreliable. Size and the other associated parameters form the basis and rationale for our overall estimates as called for in Estimating 2.3. When we look at the Level 3 practices, we start to introduce a more organizational perspective. Estimating 3.1 calls for recorded estimation methods. This enables us to adopt a more consistent approach to our estimates. The more estimates we do, the better we get at them. So by capturing the approaches that we use and applying them repeatedly, adjusting and evolving them over time, we should not only get better at estimating overall, but we should be more consistent at estimating across the organization. Estimating 3.2 looks for us to improve our estimates by utilizing historical data that has been captured in the organizational measurement repository. We can learn the lessons of the past by understanding what made a good estimate for a previous project compared to a bad estimate, and by capturing this data, we can ensure that we do not repeat mistakes that have cost us dearly. Estimating is a refinement process. When we start a new project, we are likely to have a lot of uncertainty associated with unknown aspects of the new project. As the project progresses, the degree of uncertainty should gradually reduce, and so we should revisit our estimates and adjust them accordingly along with our plans. By capturing and using historical data stored in an organizational repository, we can more rapidly reduce uncertainty by looking for similar projects that were performed previously. The more data we have, the more reliable our estimates are likely to be. These then are the practices of the estimating practice area. To summarize the main points, estimating covers developing high-level estimates, understanding the scope of the work and breaking it down into smaller, manageable chunks, estimating the size and complexity of each part of the work breakdown, converting size estimates into estimates of effort, duration, and cost, developing and maintaining estimating methods, and recording and using historical project data to improve estimates. Thank you for joining us for this CMMI Tech Talk. If you have questions, please contact us at support.isaca.org.